Dear friends, in my numerous seminars and workshops and interactions with Catholic educators, I often came across the question what the Catholic schools and universities and our educational communities should do. And therefore, I place a few important points today for our reflections. It is worth noticing that the essential purpose of Catholic education is to allow students to fully take on the cultural, social, and religious responsibilities that would be required of them. And therefore, we need to build an educational context. What is that educational context? I'm going to explain to you. First of all, in our education institutions, we must teach our students to respect and love for individual dignity and uniqueness. The Jesuit language or Ignatian language, we call it cura personalis. There is encouragement for every pupil to develop their talents in a climate of cooperation and solidarity in a Catholic institutions. There is a promotion of research as a rigorous commitment towards truth. Being aware that human knowledge has its limitations, but also with a great openness of mind and heart, respect of ideas, openness to dialogue, the ability to interact and work together in a spirit of freedom and care, especially in a pluralistic society like India. Remember, pluralism, I think it is a reality everywhere today. It is not only in Asia or in South Asia. We have pluralistic society in Europe, in America, everywhere. So therefore, that aspect has to be noticed. Therefore, in the cultural and religious context of today, we must introduce our students to do some sort of research, because our institutions are places where students develop their knowledge and scientific research. Today, more of such research is important, because everywhere we see fundamentalism and ethnic chauvinism is growing on the one hand. On the other side, we see increased violence and also false ritualistic faith that blinds the people all over the world. Here, our education institutions have the responsibilities to attract younger generations towards knowledge and understanding its achievements and applications. And therefore, one of the important points we must look at is teaching as an instrument for education. Our educators must remember that it's an instrument for education, teaching as an instrument. If the way students learn is relevant, the same applies to what they learn. Learning takes place in a loving and mutually respected atmosphere than any other atmosphere in anywhere. Please remember this point. In an atmosphere of love, a secure environment, students learn to learn. Now, therefore, another aspect of Catholic education is a learner-centered education. Pope Francis, in his Global Compact on Education, very well talks about this learner-centered education. He says the center of our education must be persons, not machines, not technology. We must educate people, accepting their uniqueness, their difference of talents, giftedness, as multiple intelligences. Learning allows our students to develop their creativity, strive for constant learning, and become more open towards others. Learning can also provide the opportunity to open students' hearts and minds to the mystery and wonder of the world and nature, to self-consciousness and awareness, to responsibility towards creation, to the Creator's immensity. Our school education will not complete if it does not serve the local community. We must instruct our teachers to provide their students with opportunities to realize the social impact of what they are studying, as well as the development of a sense of responsibility and active citizenship for the nation and the world. It's a must. Otherwise, we simply create intellectual monsters, and they are very dangerous for the society. Now, when we talk about, we must understand the context of the diversity of learners. Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam says, the quality of our educational institutions is entirely depending upon the quality and understanding of their teachers. In our institutions, teachers are called upon to rise up to a major educational challenge, which are the recognition, respect, and enhancement of diversity. Psychological, social, cultural, and religious diversity should not be denied, but rather considered as an opportunity and a gift. We must accept this diversity and make use of this diversity as a great gift, not as a curse. Teachers must be open and professionally knowledgeable when they are learning about the society and leading the class where diversity is recognized, accepted, and appreciated as an educational asset that is beneficial to everyone in the society. Those who find the poor more fragile or needy, what we call the marginalized people, should not be seen as a burden or an obstacle, but as the most important students who should be at the center of school's attention and concerns, what we call in the Catholic language, we call the option for the poor. And therefore, there is a special attention towards the marginalized people in our schools and universities. Now, we also must understand another point, that is pluralism of educational establishments. School communities that are inspired with the values of Catholic faith engage in dialogue with all. We in our schools and universities must be able to think globally and act locally. And therefore, we need to train our teachers. No, there should be a special focus on the training of our personnel. The importance of schools and universities. Educational tax explains how crucial training is for teachers, managers, and the entire staff that has educational responsibilities. If you look at the National Education Policy 2020, there's a great emphasis on teachers training. That shows that teachers' role is so significant. They should be professionally competent. And therefore, they should be able to have the ability to create, invent, and manage learning environments that provide plentiful opportunities to the students. Because we are creating future responsible people, future leaders, future citizens. And therefore, the teachers must be very, very trained. They should be able to accompany their students towards lofty and challenging goals. All our teachers must be mentors to our students. To fulfill such expectations, these tasks should be provided at institutional level with competent leaders of the church like the CBCI or other conferences and provincial level leaders of congregations, etc., showing the way. Each region has regional conferences, etc. They should pay much more attention than what they are doing now. We are witnessing an increased hostility towards church and its educational institutions by a section of political and religious organizations. Increased mob attacks and hooliganism against reputed institutions are the order of the day in many countries. We witness a remarkable differentiation, privatization, and even uh, expropriation of knowledge by newly mushroomed corporate educationists on the one hand, and on the other, we see reactionary fundamentalist organizations entering into educational arena some places with the tacit support of the ruling establishments. We face the challenges to make young people realize the beauty of their faith, their religious freedom in a multi-religious context. We face another serious challenge of being Catholic educators, of credible witnesses. Our own identity is challenged. The young people we are educating today will become the leaders after a decade or two. Please remember that. Education is not just knowledge giving, but also an experience. It links together knowledge and action. It works to achieve unity amongst different forms of knowledge and pursues consistency. It encompasses the affective and emotional domains and is also endowed with an ethical dimension, knowing how to do things what we want to do, daring to change society and the world, and serving the community. And therefore, education is based on participation, shared intelligence, and intelligence interdependence. Dialogue, self-giving, example, cooperation, and reciprocity are also equally important elements in our schools. But when I say all these things, I am aware of the challenges our Catholic school face. Nowadays, education is going through rapid changes. The generation to which it is addressed is changing quickly as well. Therefore, each educator must constantly face a situation which, as Pope Francis put it, provides us with new challenges which sometimes are difficult for us to understand. Changes are so many. For example, one of the challenges you and I face is our own identity. Many Catholic school students belong to a multiplicity of cultures. Therefore, our institutions must proclaim the gospel beyond believers, not only with words, but through the power of our exemplary lives in accordance with the gospel. The second, the challenges of the school communities. If we think about our society's rampant individualism, we realize how important it is for Catholic schools to be true living communities that are animated by the Holy Spirit. The friendly hospitality in the schools by all is so important for us. Another challenging terrain for Catholic school is relationship with the families. Many of the schools are completely cut off from the families, from the parents, many of which are going through a deep crisis and need support, solidarity, involvement, and even formation. Teachers, parents, and school heads, together with the students, make a broad educational community that is called upon to work together with church institutions. And therefore, another challenge arises, a challenge of dialogue. We believe in a dialogue of life with all at all circumstances. There is also another challenge. It is a challenge of the learning society. We should know that learning takes place inclusively with schools. In the current context, the modern technology, social media, and internet, etc., to educate peoples. Have not the schools lost the traditional educational primacy? IT and ICT, social networks, etc., make schools no longer the only learning environment for young people, and not even the most important one, because students are a few hours with you in the schools and they spend more times with WhatsApp and other social internet, etc., social media and internet. Virtual communities are acquiring a remarkable importance. After the pandemic, it has increased manifold. And so, schooling must face a new challenge, that is, building a critical thinking. Because we get knowledge through social medias and people tend to believe them. They are not sifting truth from falsehood. And I think Catholic educators must pay attention to this. And another challenge is we don't have enough resources. The challenge of limited means and resources. Schools that are not aided by states are facing increasing financial difficulties to provide the services to the poorest of the poor. We have to rethink. There are models in the world, Fe Alegria, for example, Cristore model schools, nativity schools, and many other forms of schools are being done for this purpose in many parts of the world. Perhaps we can learn from such experiences. But it is a must. With means, very mean means, we need to provide quality education. It's a challenge. There is also another challenge for Christian educators. That's the pastoral challenge. A growing number of young people are drifting away from true spirituality. Forget about religions, but true spirituality. In Europe, they call it a secularized society. In many parts of the world, we find multi-religious setup and the domination of one over the other, and so much of crisis. And people are drifting away from Catholicism or the true religious faith of any religion. Mahatma Gandhi once said, if you reach the heart of your religion, you reach the heart of other religions also. And I think we are faced with this challenge of reflecting over through spirituality for people. And another challenge we face, our schools, institutions face, is multi-religious and multicultural societies. In a multiculturalism and multi-religiosity of Catholic school students are a challenge for all people who have educational responsibilities. If our schools' Catholic identity is weakened by a number of reasons, several problems arise. The answer to this cannot be to seek shelter in indifference, nor to adopt a kind of Christian fundamentalism, but to have a genuine introspection and get rooted in our charism. Hence, one of the most important challenges will be to foster a greater cultural openness among all our stakeholders, especially teachers, and they are expected to be role models to our students. And therefore, a lifelong training must be given to our teachers. Pre-service is important, but also in-service training is important for our teachers in our schools. Look at, all of you are aware, many of those who are in India are aware, the new education policy 2020 of the central government has insisted upon this. Empowerment of teachers, professional courses, etc. for teachers. And therefore, we are also saying the same thing. Training for teachers is very important. And therefore, proper places has to be found. Training experts must be identified and organization must be done. Perhaps our national offices, etc., or the province level offices, etc., must pay attention to this vital aspect of our formation for our teachers. I say, as a conclusion, Nowadays, a lot of attention has been devoted to verifying the outcomes of students' learning activities. For example, for Jesuits, the learning outcome is identified in 5 C's. Our education must create our students persons for conscience, persons of conscience, competence, compassion, commitment, and collaboration. Each person's formation takes place within a process that is implemented over many years by several educators, starting with parents. I think the coming days, our Catholic educators must pay attention to these vital points to make our schools relevant and meaningful in the modern world. Teaching means to accompany young people in their search for truth and beauty, for what is right and good. Let us all together commit ourselves to do the right education to make us relevant and and meaningful in the fast changing context of ours. Thank you very much, and God bless you all.